This is 180 milliseconds too late, the SSA Rocket League podcast, and welcome to it. Fabulous to be here. We missed last week, but we are here again. It is Thursday, 16th of November, 2023, and we'll be having the RSC roundup. We're going to talk a little bit about the two-mans server and what's going on there, who's using it, who isn't, who's winning, who's losing, and then we're going to talk about the Rumble, the last Rumble, which was the third one, just nearly 2 weeks ago, what happened there, and then the finals coming up this Saturday. Well, day one of the finals is this Saturday. We'll talk about that, and that's pretty much the schedule for tonight. But I guess I should be saying hello to the hordes that have arrived. So who have we got in chat? We have Nuke Ninja, we have Ravi, we have Yoshi, and Yoshi's in chat, but he's also here. He's going to be presenting, he's going to be the correspondent for Two Man, so he'll be with us shortly. MJ is here, Velocity Neonix is here, and Acid.com is here, as he so often is. Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you. And so I can move that there now. And I just need to sort out one thing on settings. There we go. That can come here. We are in good shape. Okay, so let's get the evening rocking and rolling. First out the gate is RSC. We are now in week 5, which means we have week 6, week 7, and then it is playoffs, top 4 from every tier. So to give us a sense of what is going down, our correspondent for RSC, of course, is Triple M. Triple M, good evening.
Good evening to everybody in chat, and good evening to yourself, Greybeard. It's a pleasure to be on and excited to talk about the Rocket League.
Well, I'm excited that you're here to talk about it, but mostly I'm excited that you're even able to talk about it, because you've been a man who's been internet challenged over the last few weeks, which is why we didn't see you the last time, because, you were down... adding to the long list of South African problems we have, when the electricity works, the internet doesn't work, and vice versa, and then it's water, then it's whatever. But all the stars have aligned, all the utilities are working, and you're here, Triple M. So rock and roll. Tell us what's going down in RSC.
Yeah, I think I want to bring your guys' attention to the Elite Division. We'll talk about Master in a moment, but it's been pretty spicy. Obviously, top 4 teams in each division will go on to the playoffs, and in the Elite Division, we've seen Prototype, one of the few bro teams across all the rosters, actually doing well to get themselves now into a 3rd place slot after their game against Onyx, which was really, really good. They won that 4-0. They played some really decent Rocket League. They look like a team that has chemistry. They look like a team that has a good idea of how they're trying to play Rocket League and how to win games, especially considering that Onyx is not a bad team at all. For them to beat them 4-0 is a good indicator that they're in the right vein of form. But I think the thing that's
because I it's a great observation, because I had the pleasure of casting that game last night. In fact, you and I cast it together, and I haven't watched all the games. I haven't cast all the games, but I remember casting Prototype, I think in week 1, like out the gate. And for me, their improvement from that first time out the gate to what we saw from them yesterday was amazing. And the fact that they swept Onyx, the number 2 team, I was very, very pleased with how they performed.
Yeah, and it's a big win. It's a big statement win for them as a team. And obviously, just in terms of the standings, it's a win that they had to get, and now they got that little bit of extra security. Obviously, there's still a long way of the season to go, but it's good to know that they're sat in 3rd. And so, just looking at some of the numbers, what I found interesting about this Prototype team is where their players rank in terms of goals, assists, saves, and demos. So you'll see on this table here, obviously we've got Chase, Max, and Czar, and their sort of positioning amongst all of these metrics. We'll go through them individually. We'll start with Chase, right? He's got 11 goals, so that puts him 8th in the Elite Division currently. He's 1st for assists, he's 2nd for saves, and 3rd for demos. Then we've got Max, who's had a remarkable season in front of goal, 21 goals so far, 11 assists. So he is the key goal contributor in this team. And then also chipping in with saves and demos. Not quite as high as his teammates, but higher than most of the league still. And then we've got Czar, who I think is a little bit underappreciated. He does a lot of the donkey work here. First place for the demos, by the way. He has got 40 demos this season. The second player in the division, who is Dreezy, only has 26. So he's got almost double second place. Imagine how much more he's got than the rest of the league. It's absolutely insane. He does so much off the ball in terms of occupying space up the field, getting demos, disrupting the opposition. But then again, in terms of goals, he's third, right? He's got 16 goals this season as well. So the interesting thing about this prototype team is that everybody is contributing in a very key way. And we even saw Terrible put in a monumental performance. He had some good individual mechanical displays in the game and showed that he can also be a player who is not just a support player, not just doing the donkey work, but can score goals. And what I like about this prototype team is that they've got every individual chipping in. They've got a goal scorer, they've got a creator, they've got somebody who's a bit of an enforcer, who is a little bit more aggressive, but then as a collective, they've got the chemistry. They know where they need to be on the pitch in relation to their teammates. They look comfortable. There's not many double commits that I remember from that game or any moments where I thought, ooh, this team looks a bit lost. They seem pretty solid. So that about wraps up, I think, the most interesting part of the Elite Division in this past week. There were obviously other stories in the Prospect Division. As an example, Vinu was pretty good. I casted that game, or that series, where we unfortunately got disrupted by technical difficulties towards the end. But Vinu played really, really well. I believe it was Pearl up against Tanuki in that series, and he was monumental. Remember, Tanuki are a team that hadn't lost a series until yesterday evening. So this was a team that was at the top of the standings in the Prospect Division and are still at the top of the standings by one game, I believe. And he put in a really, really good performance. And typically, they're a team that doesn't really have a lot of star-studded quality. So for them to put in a performance like that, even though they are second in the league and they do deserve to be where they are, it's encouraging, you know, and I think even they would be very proud of that performance considering the difficulty of the opposition. But I want to turn your attention now to the Master Division, specifically to one player, and that player is Guns, because he's a player who I haven't really spoken about. Obviously, I've spoken about Willu, and we've had the Bromeo also talking about Willu and a couple of other players in this division. But Guns has been remarkable this season, and I really think his contributions cannot be overstated enough. Right? He is everywhere on the leaderboards. Second for saves, and he's got 36 saves there. Second for assists, 19. He's also up there in terms of demos. He's third in the league behind Willu and Olympic, according to the numbers. And he's also in the top 10 for scorers. So every key metric in terms of Rocket League, Guns is there. And he has helped Dynasty maintain their position. I believe they're currently sat first in their division under the name Red, representing Dynasty, of course, with a healthy goal difference of 10, 14 wins, only 6 losses, so they're 3 points ahead of Valkyrie's team and the rest of the league. And they look like a force to be reckoned with this season. Red are a really, really, really good team. And I think a lot of people, when the draft sort of happened, spoke about To Die For, spoke about a handful of other players, but Guns was also one of those players, one of those big names that cost a lot of credits. And it was interesting to see which team was going to get a player of his quality. And so far, Dynasty, their decision to pick him is paying off in a very big way, because he's just been everywhere. He's been sublime for them, not just in terms of the numbers, but also if you watched him in the games. I mean, he's everywhere. I mean, he also is one of the most efficient players in terms of boost this season, which I thought was just an interesting thing I'd put out there. That's something that's really hard to quantify, but the amazing access to data we have as a result of this RSC has opened up our eyes. You know, he ranks first in all the metrics when it comes to cycles, stealing the opposition boost pads, which I thought is something interesting. You know, when you watch back some of the replays, it's really hard to pick up on some of these things, because obviously with the RSC games, I can't watch all of them live on broadcast. So I do sort of sift through the replays in my spare time, try see if I can spot anything interesting. And I've never really thought to try figure out who's the most efficient in terms of boost, who's actually picking up the most pads, who's actually maintaining the boost throughout the not 90 minutes, sorry, that's my football brain talking, the 5 minutes. And it's guns, he's one of those players who's really efficient in every aspect of the game at the moment, and he's playing some really, really good Rocket League. And it's not a surprise, because even outside of RSC, he's obviously played with XD Gaming in the VS Gaming Championship recently, obviously did very well with the French class roster. So he's a player who's really, really starting to emerge in the scene as a top player. I mean, there was a time when he was a young, hot prospect. Those days are far and gone now. He has firmly established himself as one of the big boys in the scene.
Well, I think Triple M, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, because I don't know what your time is like, but coming up next is the two-mans, which we're going to have Yoshi on for. But if you have time, it'd be awesome if you could come back and talk about the Rumble. I want to go over briefly what happened in the third Rumble, but then looking ahead, because the player you've just highlighted and been talking about is going to be out doing the thing over the weekend, and you and I are casting on that for the group stages, and he's on the Bonjour roster, which we'll talk more about then. But by the sound of it, they are a confirmed roster for RLCS, and I think with guns and let's not get ahead of myself, but if you can join me again for that discussion, I'd love to talk further about it if you have the time.
Yeah, I do, happily. I'll stick around.
Excellent. All right, good. Is that on RSC? Anything else we need to touch on?
Not really anything too interesting. So in terms of the league tables across the different divisions, obviously we'll talk about the franchise standings, but in Master, obviously it's Dynasty sitting at the top, Valkyrie second, I believe it's Pearl, or am I mistaking this franchise name? Unity of fourth.
Bijou, yeah, Bijou is, yeah.
Bijou, and funnily enough, they're actually doing quite well across all the divisions. So apologies there to any Bijou representatives in the chat. But Bijou are third in the Master Division currently, Unity are fourth. So that's how the top four is looking there. And it's actually quite close, because Bro aren't that far away in the Master Division from the top four. They're only 2 points behind Unity. And so it's looking very interesting. I think of all the divisions, the Master Division and the Prospect Division are the closest, right? Because if we go to the Prospect Division, it's quite interesting. 3 teams are all on 9 wins.
Wow.
The 4th place team, 5th place team, and 6th place team, that being Valkyrie Knights and I believe Bro and Unity, who are at the bottom. They're all pretty close together. And yes. I think that is pretty encouraging. Not much to say on the Elite and Rival divisions. In terms of the franchise standings overall, we're looking at Valkyrie Knights, Bijou, Apex, and Dynasty at the in the top 4 at the moment. And then closely behind is Bro and Unity. Obviously, Bro moving up a couple of places since the Prototype win helped them in a big way. And so, yeah, it's looking quite interesting. I think what we're seeing is there is a bit of a disparity starting to grow at the top, but it's not one team or one franchise running away with it. It's a couple, or 3, which I think is still quite nice. Obviously, in an ideal world, in a perfect world, we want everybody to be 1 point apart, but that's never going to happen. Somebody's always going to pull away. It's just good to know that it's a bit of a 3-horse race and not a 1-horse race or 2-horse race,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, that's great. Well, I think what we're going to need to do, and I don't know if we do it just before the playoffs or after the season is complete, but I'd love to have a special edition podcast where we literally we break down all the big stats. Everything from goals scored to boost consumption to, and who are the top 5 or top 10 in each of the wide variety of stat categories we have. I think that'll be quite epic, and maybe have a little prize giving or something like that then. And then I did see in chat Velocity mentioning, and it is a bit of a sore point, both in the Rumble and in RSC, is the retirement of Mr. Lowe, who had a bit of a moment, it seems, and decided like he was done, selling his PC, packing it all up, never wants to log into Rocket League again. I don't know what precipitated that. I don't know who hurt him that he threw it all out. Yeah. But he did, and it created a bit of havoc for Shadow.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't really know Mr. Lowe that well. I've obviously met him on LAN. He seems like a guy who has the right head on his shoulders, and I can't imagine that this was a knee-jerk reaction. I imagine that there was a lot of contemplation on his behalf, and there were a lot of feelings harboring that led to this decision. And sometimes people look at a moment in time and say, oh, aren't you overreacting? But they don't see the build-up to that decision. They don't see the build-up of things that you've had to go through. And the reality is, being a top pro, especially, with someone with a career like Low, it does take a toll on you. We don't give these guys enough credit. The guys who do stick around in the scene, the guys who do keep on grinding, the guys who do keep on coming back, especially after difficult losses and perhaps not living up to the heights that they would have wanted. It's tough, man. So I imagine there's a lot of thought that's gone into it. Obviously, I wouldn't want to see him retire either. I think it is quite sad to lose a player of his quality and just a character like that in the scene. And I really hope he changes his mind. I hope there's a change of heart. But by the looks of things, you mentioned the tweet about the PC being sold. Yeah, that one hurt.
He's been flirting with retirement for a long time, and maybe maybe the moment has come where he follows through. And because you know what? I mean, he was right at the top of the game, came really close to going to Worlds last year. But if you are going to compete at the very, very top, it does take an all-in approach, and okay, I'm committing to this. And perhaps he's realized that, hey, listen, I'm not fully committing. I'm kind of half in, half out, and that's no way to do it. That's purely my speculation. But anyway, Triple M, I'm going to ask you to stick around. I'm going to bring in Yoshi in a moment. We're going to talk about two-mans, and then we'll get to the Rumble, and I'll bring you back in for that conversation. So, Triple M, thank you very much. And so that's the RSC wrap-up. Week 5, we've got just 2 more weeks of league play left, and so much is not decided. I think in every tier, the top 6 positions or 7 positions, probably... to be fair, 6, there's still possibility of teams making the top 4 for playoffs. So still so much to play for in every tier. Now we're going to talk about two-mans. And for those in chat who may not know what two-mans is, like six-mans, where you are a random team... it provides a bit of a competitive environment, but not pre-made teams. Your people queue up, and you're put into teams, and you get to play best of 5 or whatever it is. There's a two-man server in my Discord server, a two-man's channel, which is all about people who want to play 1v1s. We're trying to grow the 1v1 culture in the region, because it is the best thing to do in terms of improving mentality, improving mechanics. And we started off pretty well. It's been running for about 5-6 months. A lot of people were playing, and it kind of goes up and down. And I would love a lot more people to be in it. But there are some active people, and the man who is running it all is Yoshi. He's also the Discord mod for the Greybeard GG Discord, and also a mod on chat. So he does a lot of things for this channel, for the Discord, and ladies and gentlemen in chat, making his stream debut here live with webcam is Yoshi. G'day, mate.
G'day, Greybeard. I mean, you could say this is my debut on stream, but of course I've played a couple of show matches in my day.
I'm talking with your face, Yoshi. Well, this is the first time I have even seen your face. So as far as I'm concerned, this is the debut.
Yeah, well, with Facecam then, yes. I guess it would consider it a debut. But moving on to the two-mans, we have a nifty little spreadsheet that I've given you access to. And we'll start off with the Rank X for the new Season 1. So for those of you in chat who don't know, we, at the two-mans, stuff, I would say, never really had a lot of structure with the two-mans, but now we have a spreadsheet which we will categorize the players in. So yeah, starting off with the Rank X.
And let me just point out, before you say anything, I want to point out the obvious. Look at all the NAs there. The Rank X are the laziest bunch of 1v1ers we've seen. Not a lot going on there, Yoshi.
Yeah, the pros aren't very fond of playing 1v1s in the two-mans, I can see, but we'll get there one day. But yeah, so we have Devour there, unfortunately going 0-2, 0 wins, 2 losses, sitting at a rating of 937 MMR. Unfortunately, Devour is a really good player. It sucks to see him go 2 down, but I'm sure he can kick back. And then we have Ravi. Ravi kind of surprised me, I'm not going to lie. He went 4-0 so far in the two-mans, sitting at an astonishing 1127 MMR. He hasn't lost a game yet, and he's been playing against some really prominent players.
Yoshi, so how has he got 4 wins, but it looks like only 2 people are playing up here? Where did these 4 wins come from?
So the thing with Rank X, because Rank X does not have separate queues, we are forced to use the queues that they play in Rank A. So all the Rank X people have to play in Rank A, just because of that slight problem. Which, depending on if we get enough interest in Rank X, I might consider bringing it back. But at the moment, that is what we have to deal with. But yeah, Ravi taking wins over Devour. I think Ravi is the one who took both of Devour's games there. Also winning against players like Juice and someone else. But yeah, Ravi having a pretty dominant season so far. And that seems to be it for Rank X.
I see MJ. MJ is like going on and on about 2-man, so he clearly wants to get involved. And I know you've been talking to him, Yoshi, and he's been talking to you a lot. So yeah, MJ will get you in there in the mix, and no doubt well, if you're as good as good at playing as you are at chatting, I'm sure we'll see you here soon.
I hope to see him, because I mean, looking at his oral tracker alone, I see a lot of promise in him. Unfortunately, he is from Austria, I believe. So the ping is going to be something like that. I can't remember, but he's from EU.
Okay.
So the ping might have a bit of a factor, but if he has exit lag, then he should be fine. But yeah, going on to the Rank A. Here the Rank A is quite a bit more died down. We have Juice there going 1-1, sitting at an incredible 999 MMR. I'm pretty sure the win was against somebody I can't remember. The loss was against Ravi. And then down below, we have Zany going 0-1, sitting at 965 MMR. And Zeph also going 0-1, sitting at 967 MMR. I honestly did not expect that. Coming from a player like Zeph, I know he has a lot of promise and he is a good player on his own in 2v2. But you can see here that translating it to 1v1 is a different story. Then for the rank Bs, we've only had one queue, that being that of Fatty Meat Patty and Lolonizer. Pretty sure they got played by some rank A's, that therefore they both have losses and no wins. Fatty Meat Patty going 0-1, sitting at 966 MMR, and Lolonizer also going 0-1, sitting 966 MMR. I do believe that loss was mostly because Lolonizer was tilted after losing to me in the show match, but we move. I'm sure I'll see him make a bounce back soon. And then for the last so-called tier, the rank C, we have Velocity going 1-0 against Jerome, sitting at 1033 MMR, and then Jerome obviously taking the loss to Velocity Neonix, sitting at 966 MMR.
All right,
and that is kind of the wrap up for the two-mans. I hope to get more players involved because we're working on a new system.
That's the big takeaway, Yoshi, is that there's a lot of people in the server who are not playing. So, you know, we're toying with ideas, but if anybody wants to get in touch with myself or Yoshi and come, like, how do we liven this up? How do we get guys playing more regularly, and whatever the ideas are, let's hear them, let's try out things, let's get a lot more 1v1s playing. It is far too quiet. I'd love to have a 20-minute breakdown with clips of all the 1v1s that are being played. But so I guess, Yoshi, for the debut, for me the big takeaway is we need to get more people playing those ones.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, looking at just the roles alone, I see there's 171 people with the 1v1 role and 454 people with the verified role. So there's still a lot of room for people to join in the 1v1s, and a lot of people in the 1v1 already that just need to start playing again. Like you said before, we were getting a lot of queues at the start. We were sitting at around about 357 total queues, which isn't bad, but obviously we'd like to bump up those numbers, get people out there, you know, get a more complete stat sheet so we can see what players are really made of.
All right, cool. I see Mr. Hendricks, there's a name I recognize. I'm pretty sure I was in a lobby with him today. I remember a match going down. But Mr. Hendricks, join the Discord, give yourself the 1v1 role, and then you'll be given a rank, and then you can start to queue and start playing. So Yoshi, you and I are going to be working on that as much as we can. I see Flowseas wants to have a salt mine too, and that's fair enough. We just got to find sponsors, people who can cough up money. We had 15,000 Rand for the first salt mine, or the SSA salt mine, and that was a sweat to get that money. So I'd love to do that more regularly. So hopefully we can get that going. All right, Yoshi. Well, thanks for being here tonight and giving us the dope on what's going down. Hopefully that livens up in the weeks to come.
Hopefully so. Thank you for having me, Gravid.
As always, thank you, Yosh. All right, cool. So that wraps up our two-man segment, and now we're going to go to the Rumble. And I've asked Triple M to stick around, and there he is, still stuck around. And so, just to give an overview for those who are not familiar, the Rumble tournament was sponsored by Psyonix, being run by APL Esports out of APAC. And it has a total of $20,000 that is being given away. And how that worked is there were 3 qualifying events: Regional Rumble number 1, number 2, and number 3. And in the first one, 2 teams qualified. In the second one, 3 teams qualified. And in the final one, another 3 teams qualified, for a total of 8 going into the main event, which starts this Saturday. And we'll explain it more, but there are 8 teams now qualified for the Regional Rumble main event starting on Saturday. And that has a total of $15,500 that's being given away. And Triple M, I guess, first of all, I mean, you and I will, along with 2 other people, will be casting on Saturday. But, okay, well, let me start with this. I'm going to bring up, oh, hold on a second. Oh, my word, I've totally forgotten items. Sorry, I'm keeping you hanging there, Triple M. Just hang in there a moment longer, because I forgot to mention the ACGL Grind Tournament. We have a feast of competitive Rocket League happening this weekend. The ACGL Grind starts tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday. There are 8 teams in it, and the final will be on Sunday. And those 8 teams are White Rabbit Gaming, Islanders, Paul Roos Gymnasium, Astronic, Legends Esport, Brumey Legends, Panda City Mavericks, on which Yoshi is on that team, and No Fear Esport. Now, if I go to, I actually want to just call up, here we go. Can I go back here? So, yeah, White Rabbit. Now, on the Islanders team, no, one of the reunion teams, I think it's Legends Esport. Yes, Legends Esport has on their team a guy named Will NT out of Reunion Island, and I was tagged in a tweet that he's a player we need to keep an eye on, so for the future in terms of competitive Rocket League in the region. So looking forward to that. And then the Astronic team, having a look at their roster, is JRS, Nitro, and Physics. Now that is 2/3 of the Kaiser Chiefs, who are in the Rumble. We're going to talk about them in a moment. But so there are your 8 teams. Panda City Mavericks, I might as well give you their roster, because it's Yoshi, Pisang Cut, and Experience who are playing them. So best of luck to them. It is a double elimination bracket. So catch that starting tomorrow. Ultrasm, Triple M, you're not casting that, are you? Triple M? Hello?
Am I muted? I think I was muted.
Well, you had muted yourself.
Yep. Just to be safe, you know. I've been live.
Are you casting that this weekend or not? I know Ultrasm is. Ultrasm and Muzz possibly. Okay, fine.
Yep.
And then just so you know, you can catch it. These are the channels where you can watch the ACGL Grind starting at 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. Twitch.tv, African Esports, and then we have a French broadcast being broadcast by the Reunion guys, or cast by them, broadcast by ACGL, Twitch.tv, ACGL Alpha. So if you want to catch the ACGL grind tournament over this weekend, those are the channels you need to go and follow. And in fact, I'm gonna dump those into chat quickly. So you can click right now and go and follow those channels to catch the ACGL grind. Oh, there we go. Yoshi doing it for me. But there you go. So now you got it 4 times. You got no excuse. All right, cool. Triple M, let's talk about the Rumble. Just to quickly go through, this was regional Rumble number 1. And you'll see names you may not recognize. Spain, spelled S-P-A-N-E, is the team that was TBD. That's Snowy's team, Snowy to Die For and Sweaty. And then there's Water, which were here as the Sesame Street Ballers, but they've now changed their name for the main event to Water. And that's Happy Meal, Tristan, and Defunct. So just so you know about the name changes there. So in the regional Rumble number 1 on the 7th of October, Spain, and just here for cake. Is that right? That's not right.
I think
I've gotten something. It was Alt F4 that went through. Okay. So hold on. I need to make that change here because I had that wrong.
That's Whitey, Snoozy, and Ram.
Yeah, so that was Alt F4. There we go. Alt F4. Spain and Alt F4 qualified in the first Rumble. And then in the second Rumble, it was the top 3 teams qualified, and that was Water, Bonjour, and Bird. And Triple, we're going to talk about Bird in a moment. One of my surprise teams. They performed so well and got to the grand finals, losing out to Bonjour. But those were the 3 teams that qualified there. And then finally in the third Rumble, just here for cake and temporarily reformed, and the Kaiser Chiefs, another surprise team, qualified for the main event. But yeah, Triple M, you were speaking about guns in the RSC segment, and yes, he made his debut in RLCS last season in the last split, the last couple of regionals, and he was a fantastic debutant then. But he's now on the roster of Bonjour along with Cams and Willu. And I don't know how much you've seen of that roster, but man, oh man, do they look good.
They do. They look really, really good. And talking about guns specifically, I mean, it's very rare in esports that you see a player come into a scene and then almost immediately go from being a prodigy to one of the most touted players in the scene. And then on top of that, not to look out of place, you know? I just feel like even away from the Bonjour roster, even just for XD Gaming and some other rosters he's played with in other tournaments, he doesn't look out of place. You know, if you didn't know any better, you wouldn't say that he's only been playing at this level for a season, you know? And that's the fascinating thing about guns. And then you throw in Cams and Willu, you've suddenly got a trio there that really, I don't think anybody would have envisioned, you know, I mean, obviously we knew they were going to do well, but I don't think anybody would have envisioned the 3 of them playing together. And suddenly they've created this team that has made things a little bit more interesting in the Rumble, because you look at Spain and you think, well, there's a team that could possibly just take everything. And then Bonjour enter the picture. Suddenly we've got ourselves a little story, a little back and forth dance between the 2.
I'm so looking forward, and I hope they get to face off in the Rumble because I want to see Bonjour up against a quality team, and Spain without doubt is a quality team. But okay, so let's look at, here are the rosters for the Rumble event. I just want to fix the this needs to be made a little bit bigger so that it covers there. So how the main event is going to work is there are 2 groups. So the 8 teams that have gone through to the main event are in a group A and a group B. It's a double elimination bracket in each group, and the top 6. one team in each group will be eliminated. 6 will go to day 2 of the regional rumble, and I'll show you those brackets in a moment. But so there are the rosters, and what was interesting to me is that a number of the teams were pickup teams because I guess it was a little bit of a surprise, this tournament being announced. Sponsored by Sonics, a great prize pool, and a lot of the teams had kind of broken up after RLCS. So this has been a combination of experimental teams, pickup teams, and then teams that are really looking to go forward. And the 2 teams that are confirmed for RLCS are Bonjour and Spain, which we've just spoken about. And those gelled really well. But on the other end of things, if you look at a team like Water, Happy Meal, Tristan, and Defunct, on paper, solid players.
Yeah.
But they struggled throughout.
They did. And they didn't make it too easy for themselves. But, I've been covering esports, not as a caster, but just in general, for a while now. And I've also watched a lot of competitive sport. And teams like Water can be overlooked because of their performance on the journey to the sort of final stage of the event. But honestly, it doesn't matter. It really, really doesn't matter. The fact that they're here is all that matters. And they do have the quality now, as well as hindsight, to fix all of the mistakes and work on whatever was the trouble, And I mean, some would say it's a good thing if you're struggling and still make the top 8 anyways. There's teams that struggled and barely made it. So, nice life problems, I guess. So Happy Meal, Tristan, Defunct, I have no doubt they will turn up this weekend. How good they'll do, I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, it's an interesting team. Obviously, they fell victim to Bird, if I'm not mistaken, in one of the regional events, and that came as a surprise. And again, it's easy to say, well, Water didn't really play that well, but you got to give credit to the underdog sometimes. You got to just say, you know what, they were just a better team. Maybe they were a lot better than we initially anticipated. And it's not fair to just say, well, the team that was the favorite, just didn't play that well. And that's the only reason Bird won. That's disingenuous. Gold Ninja, Josh Joseph, they deserve a lot of credit for that win.
Well, I want to talk about the 2 quote-unquote underdog teams in a moment, but before we get there, all the names we see there are names you would expect to be here, with the exception of Bird and Kaiser Chiefs, and we'll talk about them in a moment. But there is the surprise of White Rabbit Gaming, who really, really underperformed, and we've spoken about it during the live cast of the tournament, and then also here on the podcast. But a struggle for them and a surprise. I mean, you would expect to see White Rabbit Gaming here.
Yeah, especially considering that they're playing a lot of Rocket League at the moment, and in other tournaments, they seem to be a team that's gelling quite well. Not performing to the standard that they would want to by per se, and they're not the complete, or finished article by any means, but there's a lot of potential there, and there are bright sparks with the addition of Laxstar into the team. I think he's integrated really well. I thought Scepter did really well in the VS Gaming Championships when he was called upon. So they're a team that's playing a lot of Rocket League, and it's kind of hard to figure out why in this event in particular they struggled so much. It's almost a mystery. They're a bit of an enigma as far as the Rumble is concerned, and to not see them here, it does feel like something is missing.
Well, they are in the ACGL grind, so hopefully they'll perform, because they are the number 1 seeds there, and you would, in normal times, expect them to win the whole thing. So we'll obviously keep an eye on that this weekend and see how they come out there in the ACGL grind. And then I just want to go back for a second to the 3rd regional Rumble, because you'll see they're temporarily reformed, which is the roster of Skillsteel, Darth, and Archeon. Now, Skillsteel, a retired player in that roster, replacing Mr. Lowe, who did now retire. It's kind of bizarre. It's like, what's going on here? It's like they're shuffling chairs in the old age home in the retirement village. But Skillsteel came in. Darth, a very interesting addition there, because by all accounts, not going to be going forward with the Limitless team of Snowy and To Die For. And I asked Darth if he's planning to retire or if he's going to play RLCS. And for him, it depends on the structure and format of what RLCS looks like next season. And then he'll make a decision there. But I do want to go back to the 3rd Rumble, because if you look there, temporarily reformed, lost in the upper bracket final to Just Here for Cake. 4-3, so it went the distance to 7 games. and then they had a 4-2 win over Kaiser Chiefs in the lower final. But then in the grand finals, temporarily reformed, reset the bracket, and then won the bracket reset. So winning the grand finals 4-2 and 4-2. So a hell of a performance from them, because they really looked they didn't look completely all there, like they were like playing at their top, and even in the grand finals, the 2 games that they lost in the reset and the last game, they lost the opening 2 games and then won 4 on the trot. So a very interesting result, and incredibly exciting to see that bracket reset.
Absolutely. And when you look at the trio, I suppose we really shouldn't be surprised, because you've got a roster there that's pretty interesting. You've got Darth, who's a player who obviously is now, we're assuming has left Limitless. A player that doesn't really get talked about a lot in that super roster that won 8 out of 9 regionals. And I think he deserves a lot more credit. He's a player that knows how to win. He's a player that knows how to maintain a certain standard, knows how to be consistent. You throw in Skillsteel, another player who has a lot of experience, has an illustrious career, and, has done really well for himself. Not too shabby for somebody who's supposedly retired. And then you've got Archeon, who, again, another player who is on a Nixa roster that, even though they fell short, did achieve great things. I believe they were the only roster to take a regional off Limitless last season, which nobody else in the country can say they've done. So you've got a trio of players there that, again, know how to win. And again, I brought this up on an RSC broadcast. I'll bring it up again today. I'm a big believer in the idea that when you're not playing well and you're still winning games, that can be a very good thing, especially in this case, seeing as they're qualified for the finals of this event. So yeah, I don't know. It's something that I think would surprise many, but it doesn't surprise me at all. I think that's what you get with an experienced roster, and that's what you get with 3 players who have that winning DNA. To do it against Just Here for Cake, obviously, is very impressive, because again, that's a really good roster. But nevertheless, it's not a surprise for me, man. I think that's a top roster, and it's just unfortunate that Spain and Bonjour are here, because perhaps in another universe, this could be the team we're talking about.
Yeah, and I think to end all speculation, the point has been made in chat that Skillsteel, who is himself in chat, hello Skill, good to have you here, is not coming out of retirement. I think he just slipped in here to replace Mr. Lowe. So we weren't speculating and wondering if you were back, Skillsteel. So just so you're aware of that. All right, and thanks for the follow. I think it's Silva. I never know how to say that name. I've seen it in our RSC. I'm going to go with Silva. If there's a better pronunciation, please put it in the chat so I can see it. Okay, so moving along. So there's our rosters. Okay, well, before we move to the bracket for the weekend, for Saturday, let's talk about Bird and let's talk about the Kaiser Chiefs. Bird I want to mention because Bird are probably the longest serving roster. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure they go all the way back when they were Fish in the first season of RLCS. And this roster have been together a long time. And they've always been okay. Sort of maybe top 12, maybe top 16, maybe occasionally dipping into top 10. Sort of there and thereabouts, but not overly remarkable. And the way they performed in that second regional rumble, I'm like, man, oh man, have these guys been working on something? Because they performed exceptionally well.
They did, and to do it against the teams they had to run through in that particular manner or fashion is remarkable. I was shocked watching that broadcast as well, just how well they played. I mean, I believe they beat the Sesame Street Ballers in the low bracket finals, but that was after making the upper bracket final and losing to Bonjour. And despite losing to Bonjour twice across 2 series, which by the way is nothing to be embarrassed about, I still think they was signs of improvement, and that was all in the same weekend. So this is a roster that has shown really good fight. They've shown really good loyalty to one another. And, over time, that can breed complacency. That can breed a sense of familiarity, which can be, can lead to you not being as competitive. But in this case, it's somehow they found a way to make it work after all this time together. And it's remarkable. I wish more rosters did, stand the test of time, because I think we'd see a lot more a lot more interesting stories in the scene, but that's a topic for another day.
And then the Kaiser Chiefs, who a little bit out of nowhere, I mean, these are names we're familiar with: Zyro, JRS, Nitro. JRS played in, and I'm struggling to remember which high school, but he was in the high school finals. I'm struggling to remember which team he was on. But I mean, so they're known players, but not players I would have thought of as as top 8 players. And they came out and they had a banger of a third Rumble. I just want to go back and see who they beat along the way. They beat White Rabbit Gaming and they beat Summit Esports. So they had an interesting run, and then lost to Temporarily Reformed in the losers finals. But I get really excited about that, where sort of players who aren't part of the old guard starting to make a bit of a breakthrough.
Yeah, it's good to see. It breeds.
Sorry, I just have to say, JRS, he didn't play for high schools. I'm so sorry. He played for Monarch at Comic-Con. That's okay. It's my old brain, JRS. My apologies. And okay, but I knew you were in Comic-Con. I got that right at least. Sorry, carry on. Kaiser Chiefs, Triple M.
Yeah, Kaiser Chiefs, they're a team that I haven't seen much of because I wasn't able to catch all of the games in the third regional. Certainly one that I would agree with the points you made about them not being expected to be a top 8 team. And similar to Bird, they have, sort of overperformed in a way. And I guess this weekend we'll see whether or not they can cause some more upsets. They're a bit of a wild card here. Zyro, JRS, and Nitro, that is an interesting trio. And this Rumble has brought together a lot of pickup teams, as you say, but this roster in particular, achieving what they've achieved so far, I don't know, maybe there could be something there, because these aren't players that I would have expected to be in this position at all. Individually, they're players that I think, can and, should be doing a lot better, but it's hard to say, where exactly they are, because is this a one-off thing? Is this something they'll continue to do? It's really hard to judge, and that's why I'm really excited for this weekend.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, then let's have a look at the what the bracket looks like. So there are 2 groups, and this is how the groups will be for Saturday. So on Saturday we're going to be showing one of the semi-finals in each group. The losers semi-final and the winners final, and the top 3 will go through to day 2 of the main event. So in Group A we have Spain versus Bird first up, Water up against Temporarily Reformed, and then the losers of those 2 games will play the losers semi-final, and the loser of that is out of the tournament, but they will go away with $600. So that's what you get for showing up, a minimum of $600. And then there will be no winners final. Oh, I beg your pardon. In the winners final, there will be a winners final streamed. And so the winner of that and the 2 teams in the losers final will go through to the main event. So the losers final won't be played because both teams qualify, so there's no need to play that. So Spain against Bird, Water up against Temporarily Reformed, and then in Group B, Alt F4 versus the Kaiser Chiefs. So yeah, Kaiser Chiefs baptism of fire, but if you're in the top 8 teams, it doesn't matter who you're going to play. It's a bit of a baptism of fire. And then Bonjour against Just Here for Cake, which should be very interesting. Of course, Just Here for Cake, Eli, Kim, Daps, and Declan. There we go. And you would favor Bonjour, but definitely the tougher of the 2 opening games there.
Yeah, definitely. I think Bonjour and Spain, those are 2 teams you would want to avoid. I mean, you're going to have to play them at some point if you want to win the whole thing.
Of course.
2 teams you would want to avoid if you're trying to win the most possible prize money as far as that cold hard cash is concerned. And then Alto 4 and Kaiser Chiefs on the other side, that's also going to be interesting. You'd expect Alto 4 to win that without too many problems. But again, Kaiser Chiefs are here because they deserve to be. They're ahead of WRG and a couple of other teams that you would have expected to see ahead of them. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do. Probably a good test for them and a learning opportunity, as I always say, when you're up against a team that you're not expected to beat. So yeah, this is interesting side of the bracket, I think, based off the 2. And yeah.
All right, so the group stages, this group's double elimination bracket is being played on Saturday from 5 o'clock on the APL Twitch channel, and I'll give you the link to that in a moment. And so that's what's happening on Saturday. Then we go to day 2 of the regional Rumble finals, and that's being played on the 25th of November. So the following Saturday will be the main finals. And what happens there, you'll see you'll see the blue squares, the blue highlights there, and that comes from the if you go back here, whoever wins the winners final in Group A and Group B, they will go through to the semi-finals. The bottom 4 teams will play a quarter-final match, and it's a single elimination bracket, so you only have one life in the main finals on the 25th. The loser of the 2 quarter-final matches will walk away with $1,200. So for their efforts, showing up for one game that they lose, they will get $1,200, and then the semi-finals. Obviously, the quarterfinal winners go through to meet the top players from the group stage, and the loser of each semi-final will win $2,100, and then the grand finals. Second place gets $3,000, and the winner will get $4,200. So big money, and I know Snowy and the boys, they will have their eyes. They will have their eyes on that $4,200. Then there is also an MVP. MVP for the tournament gets an additional $500. So a lot of money. A lot of money going around in the Rumble. So,
That's 77,000 Rand before tax, obviously, that you've got to split 3 ways. That's a lot of money, man. Cold hard cash.
And
weekend of Rocket League.
And these are all unsigned players. So there's no orgs involved. There's no... They're just taking the CHC, the cold, hard cash in dollars, which for a South African is always a bit of deliciousness. And I think, so if you want to catch the Rumble action, it is twitch.tv APL_esport. Yoshi, you can do the honors and dump that into the chat for me. Make sure you're following that channel live on Saturday. You'll see myself and Triple M there. From 5 o'clock on Saturday. So there will be 6 best of 5s, 3 best of 5s from each of the groups, and then on day 2 they're all best of 7. So it's I think I stand corrected. I'm not sure if the quarterfinal matches are best of 5 or best of 7, but certainly the semis and the final will be best of 7. So there you go. All right, so MJ, you've had your question answered. There's a Rumble event being run in Middle East. There's one in North Africa. There's one in Sub-Saharan Africa, and there's one in APAC. So pretty global, but each having their own tournament. We're not playing one another. So Saturday. So if we go back here, Triple M, to the rosters. And I'm going to ask you the difficult question. Who in your mind are the 2 teams that are going to be eliminated?
This is tough because
it's very tough.
there's a part of me that feels like just saying Kaizer Chiefs and Birds will be A, disrespectful to those players, and B, it's just too obvious of an answer. You know, I just feel like one of them is going to overperform this weekend. And obviously recent performances would suggest it would be Bird. I think we're going to see one of the big boys topple over. And by big boys, I'm not talking about Bonjour in Spain. I'm talking about possibly Alter 4, possibly Water, possibly Temporarily Reformed, or just here for Cake. If I had to pick out of those 4 teams, which one will topple? And I really don't want to do this, but it just for the sake of not sitting on the fence, it's got to be between just here for Cake and Water. And in my mind, maybe Water would be the one just because of their performances not being too convincing this recently in the Rumble games. So that would be my sort of pick. But again, that's it's a bold prediction to make, you know. It's a really bold prediction to make. I don't make it with complete certainty.
No, of course not, and we never do. But I don't necessarily disagree. For me, the certainties are Spain, Altefor, and Bonjour. I think they are locks to go through, and then varying degrees of weaknesses from there. Temporarily Reformed and Water should make it. But it wouldn't be a huge surprise for me if Water, Temporarily Reformed, and Just for Cake, if either of those 3 wobbled and didn't make it. It would be a surprise. Less of a surprise for Bird. I do rate Bird. I think they're in with a very good chance of going through. Huge upset and I would be delighted if Kaizer Chiefs hang on and go through to the big event on the 25th.
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? Teams like Kaizer Chiefs making it this far, it's almost a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, there is absolutely zero pressure because you're not expected to win anyways, so you can kind of just show up and play Rocket League. But on the other hand, obviously, they're coming up against some good teams, and you've got to factor in that. I just think in these situations, especially teams that have been here for a long time, you know, sometimes coping with that pressure of people just expecting you to magically make your way into the semi-final, then the grand finals, it can weigh on you. You know, we've seen players who have been mainstays in the scene slowly start to drop off and slowly start to just dwindle in terms of those performances. And I don't know, you know, it could be a moment here. But again, it's I concede that it's a very bold prediction, and that's why I don't make it with any certainty, you know, more just for entertainment value and just, you know, not to be a fence sitter. It would be crazy if they did make it through that first game. And if they made it out of the group, you know, it's not going to be easy for them. And talking specifically about Kaizer Chiefs there.
Okay. All right, well, there you go. That, I think, is going to wrap it up. A bumper weekend of competitive Rocket League. ACGL grind tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. The Rumble on Saturday. And Kaizer Chiefs, 2/3 of the Kaizer Chiefs, they've also got work to do in ACGL grind. So they've got a busy weekend coming up. And then, of course, RSC continues. Week 5 ends on Sunday. Week 6 begins on Monday. So all of that action going. The stream for that will be next Wednesday. And we're going to go and raid Dutch, I think, as we bring all the action to a close. I just want to check that I never know if this raid has started or not. In case it hasn't, I'm just going to put it in chat. Raid Dutch _ZA. Am I correct? Yes. All right, we're going to go and raid Dutch. Tell him I said, how's it? Tell him that I sent you. Follow him if you haven't. But that's going to wrap it up. If you've missed some of this podcast, you can, of course, watch the VOD on Twitch or on YouTube. I am live streaming to YouTube as well. I forgot to check if that's even happening. And then it will be up on Spotify by tomorrow morning if you want to listen to it while you're driving, going to gym, or doing whatever else you do. Go and say how's it to Dutch. Peace! Until next time. Thanks, Triple M.
Yes.